Hello, printmakers. All right, so I've got some designs. I have drawn them on my erasers in pencil. I'm going to ink them with a Sharpie so I can see really clearly where I'm carving. And then I'm going to carve them using both my Speedball lino cut tool and an X-Acto knife. First thing I want to show you, in case you don't know, is how to change a blade on an X-Acto knife. And so I'm going to hold this part. I'm going to unscrew this. And I've stuck the blade in pointy part down while I was traveling with it. This is my old blade. I'll put that right here. I got a new blade. Oh, let's see if I can make this cool. I just tighten it up. And again, maybe you've been like, I'm not a dummy, Katie. I know how to do that. I don't ever want to assume that you know how to do something and then have you be kind of out there in the wilderness alone, wondering how to do something. So now you know. Just tighten up. I find as I work with X-Acto knives or utility knife, craft knives, whatever the brand generic name is, that sometimes the blade will become a little loose. Just stop and tighten it. But always, 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 always use a fresh blade when you're cutting stuff. It makes the work easier. It'll give you cleaner lines. It is a good practice. Now, here is a teeny little sharp blade. Don't throw this in the trash just by itself, because if it works to the bottom, it'll cut through your plastic liner or bag or whatever. And at best, it could just fall out and land at the bottom of the bin or the can. At worst, it could cut somebody when they're taking out the trash, and that'd be a bummer. Maybe it'd be you. But even if it's not, we don't want people to get cut on our old blades. So if you're in the shop, we have a sharps container. I'm going to grab it and show it to you now. Hello, sharps. So this is our sharps container, and you would just open it up, whoop, drop it in. So if you are working at home and you don't have your very own sharps container, here's what I like to do with my blades to make sure I know they won't hurt anybody. I grab a piece of scrap paper, any sort, and I'm just gonna tear off a little bit, and I wedge my blade in there. I'm kind of threading it in like that, and then I'll just fold this around it once or two, 3, 8 times, fold it up. If you want to be a little extra, you can put a little piece of tape on it. That blade is now contained in that package. Gone. Yeah, so those are 2 ways to throw away your blades: in a sharps container or very carefully wrapped up so it can't cut anybody. All right, so now let's talk about carving. I mentioned I'm going to ink my image in Sharpie. That'll make it easier for you to see as I carve. It'll make it easier for me to see. And will give me nice thick lines that'll be a little easier to define with my carving tool. You do not have to use Sharpie. You could just stay with a pencil, but you definitely want to have your image marked on the eraser before you start carving, just so you kind of know where you're going. So there's this and that. All right, that business. Okay. In our class, you will have what's called a bench hook. It's a piece of wood, little kind of cleat bit up here, cleat bit up here. Slides onto the table like that. And bench hooks are great because it gives us something to brace against. And that is helpful because you will resist the temptation to be, and you may do it anyway because these are so small, but if you're carving with this in your hand and you miss, you're just going to stab your beautiful palm or your beautiful whatever. We'd like to avoid that. So I'm going to brace this here. I'm going to get my carving tool, and I'm just going to kind of come in and start taking out a little bit of the eraser bit. The eraser is lovely and smooth and super easy to carve, so that's nice. And for my first pass, I'm just going to go around the outside. Actually, maybe I should do a little on the inside. One thing to note, I've drawn this, ta-da. So you can see where those Sharpie lines are. I'm going to carve out anything that's white because I want the raised part to be wet print. If you are a little nervous about carving or you're short on time or whatever, you could do a solid form like some of these, or like my other eraser, I'm just going to do these solid circles. That'll be a lot easier to carve because there's less detail in there. So adjust as necessary for you and yours. Okay, and this is the part in the demo where I feel like I should go faster so you don't get impatient. And I used to do that. I would go really fast, or I wouldn't finish demos because I thought, oh, this is so boring. And who am I to stand in front of these students and take their time to show them this stuff? I can't answer for you all the question of who am I, but I will tell you that this stuff takes time. And so me speeding through it or hiding that from you doesn't really help you get a sense of how the work happens. So that's why I'm just going to talk through carving as I do it with you all. I'm coming on into the inside and kind of working out the small details first, and then I'll come back out and do a little more of the, oh, here's a good one. So I've got this area, let's see if I can show you, where the, like the top of the eye meets the cornea of the iris. This gouge that I have in here is pretty big. I could switch to my little V gouge, which would be a good idea. I could also, and this is what I'm going to do because I'm a little lazy right now, use my X-Acto to kind of prime those cuts. And so I'll just do a little bit there and a little bit there. Oops. And think. So that's it. If you want to, you can do all of this with an X-Acto knife, but I think it's a little easier to use the carving tools. And we'll be using the carving tools later in a project, so it's good practice with those. All right. When you do this carving, you generate all these little sort of shavings, these little bits that you've carved out. So if you are working at home, it's good to maybe put down a drop cloth or a towel or something so you can catch little ZBs, especially if you have carpet. And if you don't have carpet, you have hardwood floors or something else, you can just plan to sweep up after you're done. Okay. Carving out the inside of the fingers. I come in here and put little stopper cuts on those lines. Mm-hmm. If you start carving and you totally F up your eraser, don't freak out, or freak out a little bit, whatever you need to do, but just flip it over and start over, do the other side. And if you F up that side, I have other erasers and I will give you one, or you can order one, but or you can find other materials to carve. But you know, this is a low stakes warm-up assignment, so try and give yourself a little grace. Take a deep breath. All right. That looks okay. You can clean this up in here. You'll also have a chance, once you've carved it, you'll ink it up and proof it, and that'll be a chance to clean up any areas that aren't looking like you would like them to. All right, so there's that. That. Good. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can show you this. Hello, autofocus, maybe. Maybe too close. Oh no, there. So you can see, I think you can see the areas that have been removed there. I'm now going to go back in and take out the outside areas. I'm also going to leave these little kind of radial dots. And so one of the first things I'll do in order to carve those is kind of come out here, and I might even do these entirely with an X-Acto, but give those an edge and sort of outline them. So I'll be less inclined to hit them with a stray gesture with the carving tool. So let's do that. And while I have the X-Acto, I'm also going to come in and notch some of these finer little areas that would be hard to get into with the carving tool. Woo. Oh boy, it's so satisfying to take out a great big chunk. And I'm doing what I said not to do. I'm putting my hand there and carving, but try and move it so you can see and I can carve. Oh, that's so satisfying. Pull up a nice big piece. All right, there. There. One of the things that I miss about face-to-face class is just shooting the breeze. Like this would be a time in class where I would ask you, for example, what's going on campus, or what's good, what music are you listening to? And then you would tell me, and I would learn so much about what's going on in your world. And making these videos while no one is around and there's no one to ask questions of, I'm reminded of the pleasure of that in normal times. Something to look forward to. All right, so now I've carved out the top. Let's see again, a little autofocus. I don't know if that's a great look for you all, but yeah, so you can see the areas that I've carved out there. And now I'm going to come in and do this little passage around there, and then we'll be done. We can do a little proof and see how it prints. And that'll be good. Okay. Oops, there we go. Let's take that off. Clean up your edges, my edges. All right. Oh, almost forgot the little bit down here. I don't want that to print solid, so I'll come in this way and tidy that up. And this might be an occasion where I'll switch to the smaller V gouge. So I don't have to carve out each of those little voids with an X-Acto knife. Oh, I get a bad one. And this little piece right in there. I'll put my spare blade in the handle of my tool. Now I've got the tiny V gouge. So nice. Okay. A little bit there. A little bit there. Oh, that's messy. Okay. There's a little spot in this. Oh, I keep finding spots I missed. If you don't find them while you're carving, they'll show up in the proof and then you just kind of clean it and come back. But since I got them, let's do that now. Okay. It looks like it'll print, and we can find out if that's true in just a minute. I'm going to clean up just a little more over here. All right, so there it is. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Out of focus. All right, we'll see how it prints.